be a more expensive flight than if we booked it during October, right? We all understand that if we want to go to Disney World between Christmas and New Year's, you're going to pay 3 times the rate of the room than if you went in, early November when the park has got a fourth of the amount of people in there, right? We all get that there are peak times, and those peak times cost more. When we get to transportation, we throw all of our economic understanding out the window. And essentially, we make these investments to mine for short-term economic gain. If you look back in history, and the railroad is a really good example of this, how did we build the railroad system in this country? You can go over to China today, you can go over to Japan today and look at how they're building their high-speed rail systems. It's all based on the concept of value capture. You build the track, you build the station, you develop the land around it, the profits you make on that pay for all the infrastructure, and now the cost that you have, the fees and stuff that you charge, basically covers the O&M. Highways should be no different. Highways should be no different, and transportation corridors should be no different. When we invest in these systems to move people over long distances, we need to start talking not about how do we tweak the gas tax, but how do we capture the value that's been created with that line in order to fund it. When you go from rail, which we had across this country, to asphalt highways, you're exchanging a system that worked really well with value capture because you had a stop and a discrete area around it, and a system that you could amortize the maintenance over a very long period of time because the railroad would last a long, long time. You took that system and switched it to a system where the value is dispersed over a very broad area, and the system falls apart really, really quickly. So you took like the best of both worlds and switched it for the worst of both worlds. We will not solve that problem with more money. We will not solve that problem with assistance from Washington. We will not solve that problem by building more stuff. We're going to have to do a combination of reducing what we have, like literally eliminating highway miles. We're going to have to do things that more closely correlate supply and demand, such as congestion pricing and per mileage taxes and that type of thing. And we're going to have to shift to a financing mechanism that correlates the land use intensity and the development yield that we can get at interchanges, at exits, at wherever, at town centers, and use that revenue to pay for our long-term capital costs. I don't see any other mechanism that will work. All of those politically are wildly unpopular, okay? So what I don't have in my head is a transition to get us from here to there. That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
How do you transition? Maybe toll roads are an easier transition, but to me, if I'm a DOT, if I'm an advocate for transportation, the thing that I do is I put the numbers out there in front of everyone and say, look, here is what we've already built and are committed to maintain. Here's the revenue stream we have coming in, and it's literally that much difference.
Yeah.
It's a magnitude of 4 or 5 times. This system's going to break. We have to do something different. And I wouldn't focus on advocating for transit or advocating for this or that project as much as I would focus on advocating for a different conversation. Because when you have a conversation about value and paying for things, what winds up happening is that transit, biking, walking infrastructure all jump to the top because those are the high return investments.